Miami Dolphins pulled off highway robbery in late April of 2024 when they drafted Chop Robinson with the 21st overall pick. He had an excellent rookie season. He is earning honors from a couple of publications that we'll show you on today's episode. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports, and I should see as many likes on this video as the amount of views that we get, because Chop Robinson passed all expectations in his rookie year. And if you're fired up about his future in a Dolphins uniform, hit that thumbs up icon. Show me how fired you up are about 44 being in that aqua and orange. And I got to give Chris Grier credit. As much as I like to clown him and say he should be fired, which he still should, he hit this pick. And you can rewind the tape. Go back to late April when the Dolphins picked him at 21. I think I gave it an initial C+ grade and then kind of changed it to a B-. Well, it was great. It was an all-time steal at number 21. The reason why I graded it low is because I thought interior offensive line was a bigger need at that point, and Graham Barton from the Duke Blue Devils was available, and he did have a good season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Chop Robinson because he was terrific in his first rookie season. 6 sacks, 8 TFLs. You just saw everything you'd want to see in a potential franchise edge rusher, right? The explosiveness, the burst, the first step, the bending ability to get around offensive tackles, but also mix in a little bull rush that would surprise offensive tackles at point. Listen, was he the best edge rusher of all time? No. Was he even the best edge rusher this season as a rookie? No, you'd probably give it to Jared Verse from the Los Angeles Rams, but Robinson has a clear, bright future in the NFL. And I mentioned some honors that he was getting. Yeah, he received a couple of them this week from publications, and I would expect an official announcement from the NFL to be happening relatively soon. ESPN named him on their all-rookie team for 2024, as well as the PFWA, that is the Pro Football Writers Association. They placed Chop Robinson on their all-rookie team. Him and Jared Verse led the two edge rushing spots on the all-rookie teams. And Ben Solak of ESPN wrote about Chop, saying that Robinson had such a cool, underappreciated season. He was the 8th fastest edge rusher off the ball, according to NFL Next Gen Stats. That's that first step we were talking about, with an average get-off of 0.76 seconds, and leveraged that wicked first step into a 17.2% pressure rate, 6th among all edge rushers with at least 200 pass rushes, and first amongst rookies, including Jared Verse. So Chop actually had a better win rate off the edge in terms of pressure than Jared Verse, who has been otherworldly. And I'll say this right now. You can say this about Jared Verse. You can say this about Chop Robinson. Dolphins got one of them ones, man. He looks unbelievable. He looks like someone that is going to be top 5, top 10 in sacks and pressures as long as he stays healthy for the next 5 to 7 seasons. Like, is it crazy for me to say that? Maybe, but you just use the eyes. And the part of Chop Robinson's game that I really liked is that it felt like he was a big game player, a big-time player. Shout out Dickie V, big-time player, baby. Every time that a big moment arose in the fourth quarter, late in the season, that's when Chop Robinson made a play, whether it's forcing the quarterback to leave the pocket sooner rather than later, step up in the pocket. And he doesn't get credit for a sack, but he forces movement that can lead to a different sack. And there was a couple times he also got his hands on a pass and batted a ball down. One specifically, what game was it? Oh, I forget what game it was. I think it might have been the Jets, where he batted a ball and saved a touchdown because someone was wide open, but he got his hand on it. I was impressed with Chop Robinson's season, man. I'm excited to see his future. And let's go back to school, get those red pens out. Grade the rookie season of Chop Robinson on a scale of 1 to 10. No rookie scores. Give me a full decimal as well. How do you rank Chop Robinson's rookie season? I'm going high, man. I'm going 9.2. And maybe you can say that that's too high, but based off my expectations, he exceeded them by quite a lot, and he showed how elite he can be with the end of his season. Because we actually talked about how much I did not like the pick when it happened, but also how bad of a start he had to the year. In the first 6 games for the Miami Dolphins, the first 5 weeks before the bye, and then the first game coming out of the bye, he was practically non-existent. He was. He wasn't doing anything. He had no sacks. He was barely getting after the quarterback. He was a non-factor and not even playing really that much because he was a liability in the run game as well and not setting the edge as he needs to be because you got to play both sides of that offense. You got to be able to stop the run and get off the quarterback. But for whatever reason, a switch was flipped. It was. Starting when that game against the Arizona Cardinals in Week 8. It was like when Tua returned from the initial IR stint, Chop Robinson changed into a different person. I mean, it's not even the same play. You would think these numbers are fake with how he looked in the first 6 games compared to the first 11. And I wanted to hone in even more on his numbers since Week 8, the last 11 games of the season, because he had the 7th highest pass rush grade according to Pro Football Focus. He was top 5 in pressures, top 5 in QB hurries, top 5 in win percentage, and top 5 in PRP. And you might ask, what is PRP? Well, I didn't know the stat either, but I wanted to show it because I actually think it's a really good one. Verbatim from Pro Football Focus. PRP is a formula that combines sacks, hits, and hurries relative to how many times they rush the passer. So it's basically bringing it in here and saying on an even playing field, how effective are you? And Chop Robinson was the 3rd most effective pass rusher at the edge position since Week 8 of the 2024 regular season. I am just completely here to be the messenger, but the Dolphins have someone that is looking like they could be a top 5, top 10 edge rusher in the entire NFL for years to come, and I am very excited about that. And coming up in just a second, the Dolphins have a tough decision to make at the edge department. We'll explain why in just a second and how Chop Robinson impacts that. But make sure you get started with our sponsor on today's show, and that is Game Time, the #1 ticketing app out there. They specialize in getting last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And that lowest price guaranteed is for real, folks. If you're going to a concert, comedy show, theater event, live sporting event, and you find a cheaper ticket on a different service in that same exact seat, same exact section, same exact row, Game Time will actually credit you 110% of the difference. They also have a great feature called Game Time Picks, which filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time is the only way I buy my tickets. Last time I went to a live event, it was Timberwolves Mavericks Christmas basketball. I bought my tickets with Game Time. So join me and everyone here at Chat Sports by downloading the app, using code CHATSPORTS when creating an account. That'll get you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, first purchase only. But make sure you use code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off that first purchase. Shout out to Game Time for sponsoring today's show. That link and promo code will be in the description and comments of today's video. Shout out to Game Time. All right, let's get into that tough decision I teased before telling you about the wonderful Game Time, which is not a tough decision, but it's actually on the edge department, because when you think about what the Dolphins have, the edge group is probably the most fulfilled roster spot outside of tight end. You obviously see the needs at inside linebacker, and we've well documented that with who's on the roster right now. But you have Chop Robinson and Jalen Phillips as your projected starting edge rushers in Week 1 of next season, barring injuries. It's expected that Phillips makes a return for Week 1. Chop Robinson is obviously back, but you also have 2 guys in reserve already, in Bradley Chubb, who is returning from that knee injury, maybe, and Mo Kamara, the 5th-round pick out of Colorado State from the 2024 draft. With the Dolphins having 4 edge rushers under contract, my question is this: how much do they trust Mo Kamara? I liked the pick when they made it in 2024. Out of Colorado State, I thought he was going to be a day 2 pick. I thought he was going in the 2nd and 3rd round because he was productive. He had a great motor, but he just simply did not see the field for Miami this season. He was often a healthy and active, and players like Emmanuel Ogbah, Tyus Bowser, Quentin Bell were getting more run than Mo Kamara. Well, will that change? Do they trust him going into year 2? Because if they do, there's a real chance that Bradley Chubb may be cut, and that is that tough decision that I was teasing, because he carries a $28.6 million cap hit for this upcoming season. That number is just way too high for a player that has not played football in more than a year and a half. Remember, he tore his MCL, ACL, and another ligament in his knee on December 31st, 2023. 2023. Yeah, that's long ago. And you would save $19.5 million in cap space if you cut him with a post-June 1st designation, which you're allowed to do with 2 players on your roster. When you think of Bradley Chubb's spot on this roster in 2025, it's not guaranteed due to the financial aspect of it. And we're going to continue this conversation, but make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're on the road to 68K, and if Bradley Chubb gets cut, traded, or any roster move happens with the Miami Dolphins, we will have you covered. So subscribe today and join the channel. I kind of am on the road here of believing Bradley Chubb could be cut. Because if the Dolphins front office believes that Mo Kamara can be a rotational edge rusher for them in 2025, there's really no reason to keep him. Now, you often saw the Dolphins rock with 5 edge rushers on a weekly basis. You would have Emmanuel Ogbah, you'd have Quentin Bell, you'd have Tyus Bowser when healthy, Chop Robinson, and you'd have Calais Campbell kind of there in rotation as a 5th, 6th guy, but he played on the interior a lot. You also have Zach Sealer on the interior. And if you trust Mo Kamara to provide some impact and productivity this upcoming year, you already have 3. So you only need to add 2 or 3 more if you cut Chubb. If you keep Chubb, you only need to add 1 or 2 more. But if you move on from him, you can go after some of the top free agents available at the edge part. And the beautiful part about this free agency edge group is that there's really no young studs. Like, there's not a lot of guys out there that are going to command $20+ million. Maybe Hassan Reddick can, who is a former New York Jet. But most of these guys are veterans that would be getting paid relatively cheap contracts, like Josh Sweat, who might get the biggest contract out of all of these guys alongside Reddick. But Matthew Judon, Chase Young, Josh Uche, Ogbah could return, Clavion Chason, Clarence Farrell, Dietrich Wise Jr. Like, these are just some examples of free agents that you could target on 1 year, $5-6 million deals, 2 years, $10 million deals, and bring in multiple of these guys for a cap hit that is relatively low, and you can save money, spread around that money you do from Bradley Chubb potentially being cut, and add a more well-rounded room that can survive injuries if need be. And that's why I want to ask you this. Will Bradley Chubb be cut? Because I'm laying out a pretty solid plan here if they do ultimately get rid of Chubb. Are you buying into that plan? Are you saying, Rolly, you're crazy? Let me know. Will Bradley Chubb be cut? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I kind of teased it. But, like, you can cut Bradley Chubb, save the $19.5 million, use it at other positions. Like, for example, Javon Holland, if you wanted to retain him, you can cut Bradley Chubb and use that entire cap space that you created from moving on from him to re-sign Javon Holland on an $18 million annual average salary contract over 3 or 4 years. I would not do that, but you could, and you would choose the young safety over Chubb. Or you can just grab 1 or 2 of those free agents that we just showed you and make a more balanced room. And you also have 10 picks in the upcoming draft, at least as it's projected right now, with you getting 3 comp picks and the 7 you already own. There's just a lot of flexibility and a lot of avenues Miami could go if they ultimately move on from Bradley Chubb. I know there's a lot of spots on this roster that need to be filled / upgraded after a down 2024 year, but moving on from Chubb, saving that money, and using that cap to address other spots makes a lot of sense to me. And that's why talking about Chop Robinson today is so important. Because if Chop Robinson stunk up the joint and looked like a bust or looked like an average pass rusher, you would be like, okay, we should probably try to retain Bradley Chubb and have him, Phillips, and Chop be a trio. But with Chop Robinson looking like a potential all-pro or in a Pro Bowler in this future, it goes, okay, we can trust Chop to be our number 1. Jalen Phillips is our number 2, which gives us more flexibility. Chop Robinson playing well not only helps this Dolphins roster now, but also the way they can think going into this offseason. Shout out Chop, man. Been absolutely awesome. And like I said off the top, if you were fired up about Chop Robinson, hit that thumbs up icon. But also, if you're still watching the video at this point, you clearly like what we're doing, so hit that like button. We put out content completely for free on this channel, so make sure you hit that like button, and appreciate everyone for watching.